Okay, so you should be able to hear me now through the microphone at least. Except the microphone's incredibly quiet again. Let's just go and double check this. And yes, something has turned the microphones down. Okay, that should be a lot better now. Perfect. Okay, so here it is. The F28. In-flight simulator. So first things first, we're going to go and play with the control configuration and see what we have in terms of throttles. That looks good. Except that seems to be on some sort of parabolic curve, so I'm going to go and make my own configuration for it. Default. Open preset manager, duplicate that one and call it Fokker F28 Fellowship. Okay. Change the sensitivity curves immediately to 0. Dead zone 0. Dead zone 0. We will not offset any curves at the moment because I don't think we need to, because it hasn't got thrust reversers on the same axis as far as I've seen. So done with that. Power management, throttles. Throttle 1 axis 1 and 2 0 to 100 are pre-configured, so let's go back and resume. Are they the right way round? Yes, they are the right way round, and that is the... Okay, so that doesn't give me the full amount of travel, but hopefully that will become available or obvious while we're in flight. So, as you can see, the insides are interesting. So I'm going to be working through a checklist, so I'm updating my write-up as I go along. So let's just make sure that various levers are configured. So we've got spoilers. It's interesting that the spoilers also pull a lever there. Interesting. It's the flap lever. And rudder pedals. Oh no, that's the tiller, not the rudder pedals. Interesting. So that's mapped incorrectly. Unless there's... Oh, there's a gust lock, isn't there? It's down here. There we go. So I'll raise that for the moment. Actually, while that's up then, so we should be able to move the controls around gently. And then while that's up, we shouldn't be able to move them, which is perfect. So that confirms that straight away. Okay. So let's go through the views. Control 1 gives us the instrument panel. 2 is the MCP. 3 is the engine gauges. 4 is the co-pilot instruments. 5 is the weather radar or GPS if we switch it on. 6 is the pumps by the look of it. 7 is the radios on the pedestal. 8 is overhead. Okay, that's good to know. And 9 is further overhead. So, control and 8. So I'm going to be updating my checklist as I go. So battery to on or up. And there we go. Then in the APU section, second column at the top, so that's control 9, I guess, yeah. So just updating my notes. Overhead control 9. So this might take a bit longer than normal because I'm figuring all this out as I go. So main goes to on. Air conditioning, third column at the top, so that's over here. Left main to on, the top left switch. It's this one, isn't it? So that's on control 9 as well. Air conditioning section, third column at the top, left main to on. Yeah, I've done that. APU section, second column at the top, that's this one. So we have to wait at least 10 seconds after we switch that, which obviously has happened now, and then we can do APU start. So to press start, we do that, and it lights up. And then we can monitor the... Did we get a gauge up here, actually? Let's have a look. Yeah, it's up here, look. So the RPM for the APU comes round. If you go outside and see if we can hear that happening. So there's the exhaust for it. You can see the heat pouring out of it. Very cool. Okay, so wait for 100%, so that's already happened. Gen 3 to on. So we've got Gen 3 to on. If we can get them, we have to drag it with the mouse. It's interesting, it didn't use the mouse wheel that time. Bleed air to on, the top right switch. Okay, central pedestal. So that was control and 5, was it? No, 6, 7, control 7. So let's go and change that on my notes. Master radio section, rear at the right, that's over here. So we're going to put 1 to on, which is forwards, and 2 to on, which is forwards. Then overhead emergency exit lights. They're at the bottom left, so control and 8. And we've got the emergency exit lights here, so control and 8. See, this is the only thing I couldn't find out were the keyboard combinations to write into my own notes to move around the cockpit while we were doing this. Then windshield heating at the bottom right. If the outside air temperature is less than 20 centigrade, left and right need to go to low. It is, so we'll do it. Cabin altitude section, third column at the bottom, so that's here. The bottom right knob, we will set our cruise altitude. So say if we were going to fly at, and we're looking in the little window, so say we were going to fly at 18,000 feet, for example. So yeah, we don't really need to worry, look, it's not going to pressurize it for it. So eyebrow panel in the middle, so control and 8 again. So it's in here. Nav 1 to on DME mode. So, okay, is this a slightly different layout than the others? Interesting. So the different models of the aircraft vary from each other by the look of it. So if we go and look here, Nav radio section on the right side. Oh, hang on, I'm looking in the wrong place. Yeah, they're different. So this is very different than I watched the video of. Interesting. So I'm just getting acquainted with where things are then. So on this version of the aircraft, so here's the nav radios down here, but they don't seem to have eyebrow panel in the middle. Done that. Master oh, okay, sorry, I'm looking in the wrong place. Master control panel. Control 2 was master control panel. Nav radio section on the right side. Nav 1, here we go. So it needs to go to DME mode and Nav 2 to DME mode. That makes sense now. Flight director in the center. Mode selector to heading. So that's over here. Heading as required, and if we go and look, we'll just use LittleNavMap here to get this set up. We are on the ground at Southend. We're going to be flying runway 23, so we're going to set the initial heading bug using the HSI for reference to 230 degrees. Oops, there it goes. We've got the heading bug in the right place. So heading as required, pitch command to 10 degrees. So you can measure this by looking at the attitude indicator down here. So you've got 10 degrees there. So we can ask this to go to 10 degrees on the climb out, and it lifts the flight director up. So course section, set nav 1 and nav 2 courses as required. Select. So we're going to leave that alone for the moment because we're not going to be using radio navigation immediately, although I guess we could, because we're going to fly out this direction towards the Detling VOR as part of our course. So the Detling VOR is 117.30. So 117.30. 117. So it's probably becoming obvious I've done my homework on this aeroplane. For the first time ever, I've done my homework on an aeroplane. So the course we will be looking to fly into it will be 175 degrees. So let's go and spin the course round to 175. Too far. Whoa. Okay, that's done. So back in the cockpit, we can calibrate the altimeter by pressing B to shortcut that. We can calibrate the compass by pressing D to shortcut that in case it moves around. Altitude, alt set to the initial climb altitude. Altitude pre-selector, bottom right of the primary instruments. So that's in here. So we are going to climb straight out to 18,000 feet for our little journey around London, just to try the aeroplane out. So center pedestal, control 6 was it? 7. Control 7. So let's go and put this in into my instructions. Control 7. Lights section, front and right, nav to on. So that's over. Okay, but this is the wrong one. We want control. Oh, have they not got a view that's in between? That's a shame. So we want to go a little bit further up. We want to see that. Have they not got a view that shows that? Control 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and it's just cropped out. I guess if you use 7 and zoom out, then you can see it. So I'll make a note of that. Plus zoom out. So nav lights go to on. The ATC transponder section, middle on the right. So this is here. We need to set a transponder mode to standby. So that's just here. And squawk mode to C. Done. So we're now going to prepare for engine start. So we go to the tablet, which, have we got a shortcut for the tablet is the question. There isn't one, is there? So we just have to go look at it. Obviously we can set up custom views. So we go to the aircraft section and doors are closed. That's all good. We're on the parking brake already, so we can remove the chocks, I suppose. So then engine thrust gauges over here. We are going to set the thrust index as appropriate. So there is a chart for this in the book. It's the bottom right knob basically on each of the, bottom left knob, and you can move these numbers. So I'm going to leave them on 170, which is about right. You can then click on these numbers here, which will set the V speeds for takeoff. Okay, so back on the central pedestal we're going to remove the gust lock, so that would be available in the Control 7 view. So pushing it down releases the gust lock. Lights section, front and right, anti-coll, so this is the one we were on about earlier. Anti-collision, top and bottom to on. So we go and have a look at the outside to see those lights working. So we've got the nav lights. Can we see? There's so much stuff around us we can't see the lights. So yeah, we've got the one at the top now. Where's the anti-collision light underneath? Can't quite see. Oh, there it is. Yep, that's working. Fantastic. Booster pumps, front and centre. So that's further up where we can't get to, so it's going to be Control 6, I guess. Here we go. So I'm just going to write that into the notes. So this is central pedestal, forward, which is Control and 6, and heading 2. Booster pumps, so left booster pumps forward and aft to on. So, and the mouse has disappeared, which means the simulator has frozen. There it goes, it's just released itself. So that's forward, that's aft, and then right, forward and aft booster pumps to on. So then overhead, I've got the wrong font here, Control, so Control and 8. So we go back overhead. And we hit the engine start switch, or is it control 9 actually? It's control 9. So engine section, second column in the middle, start master to on. So left engine start, start selector to 2. Interesting, so how do we... And if we watch the gauges, is it coming up? It didn't stay on, did it? So why did that not stay in place? So you have to hold it on for a second or two, okay, to engage it. And it's coming up. Brilliant. So when it gets to 20, we can advance this to start. When it gets to 50, we can advance it all the way through. So we're waiting for this needle to come up to 50. And then that advances all the way through. And then it's the same for the other engines. So we can hold this onto 1, or hold it left. We wait for this to come up to 20. And then we can advance the starter lever, wait for it to get to 50. Okay, so that's the engines started. So post engine start, overhead, start master to off. So that was control 9, wasn't it? So engines, start master can go back to off. So I'll update this keyboard shortcut to control and 9. In the APU section, Gen 3 to off or middle. Again, you have to pull it, which is quite interesting. Air to off or down, and main to off. So that's switched off the auxiliary power unit because we don't need it now because the engines are running. Air conditioning section, third column at the top, right main to on. So that's this one here. Engine anti-icing, fourth column at the bottom, both to auto or down. So if we press Control and 8, so both of these go to auto. So I need to put a heading on this to tell it it's overhead Control and 8 to get to it. I'm just trying to make this a lot easier for other people when they come to do this later. Windshield heating, both to low or down. Yeah, we've already done that. Pitot and vane heating, third column at the bottom, both to on or up. It's interesting that this one's up versus the others are down. And we prepare for taxi, so flaps as required, typically 18 degrees. So let's go back to the cockpit. let's have a look at the flap lever and see how that aligns with the Airbus quadrant out of the box. So we want 2.5 detents. Monitor flaps on the instrument panel so you can see the flap movement somewhere around here. Here it is over here. So it should get to 18 degrees. Perfect. Set trim as required. Typically 5 units nose up. So let's see if we can see that. Here we go. It's over here. Look. So we can set the trim. So we did that with the trim controls, which I've got mapped to buttons. Taxi light to on or forward. So taxi lights were over here, weren't they? So taxi light on. Okay. So engine's running. We're going to press Shift and P, which is not the right order because we shouldn't have started engines before pushback, but there we go. Let's have a look at the live stream chat. Okay. It's going to be interesting, isn't it? So we've got the aeroplane running now. Just looking at live stream chat to see who's coming through. Average British chat. Oh, I gather there's been some idiots in the chat room while I've been going through the checklist. Great. I guess it takes all sorts is the answer to that one. So we're going to push right back out to the edge of the apron here to give ourselves room to turn. I have no idea what the turning circle is going to be like on this thing. So press Shift and P. Put the parking brake on. There's some positive thrust there in the engines. Press F. Waiting for the truck to pull away. So it has got a very twitchy nose wheel steering, which I think Into the Blue commented on, so whether that just needs its own profile, I'm not sure. It's a nice looking plane, isn't it? So before we actually get going, I'll pull up short of the runway and just have a look at the controls for the autopilot, because I've not acquainted myself with them at all yet. But we might even fly a circuit manually before we set off. So let's come to a halt here for a moment. So let's go and acquaint ourselves with where these buttons are. So there's the mode, there's the altitude hold on or off. So we've got roll, hold, heading hold, beam, that's the ILS, localizer. So glide slope, indicated airspeed modes used for climbing, descending obviously, and height mode, I guess that's altitude hold. So why is this called altitude hold over here as well? Obviously we're going to need to read the book on some of this stuff. Just having a read around. So where's the master button for the autopilot? Is it down here somewhere? Yeah, it's down here, look. So you've got the damping and autopilot. So we could put that on early. Let's go and refer to the checklist again just quickly. So yeah, next thing to do once lined up is put damping on, transponder mode to on, which I'd completely forgotten about while we were busy. So that goes to... Just check the modes on that, have a good look at it. So yeah, it's on now. Good. So landing lights to on and extended. So they're going to be down here somewhere. And extend them. Primary instrument panel, weather radar. So if we're using the weather radar, we can press WX and this will come on. It's obviously not going to do much because I don't think they work in Flight Simulator, but we could set that to whatever range we want, say 50 miles for example. And we're ready to go. So this is very much going to be a test flight, having never touched this aeroplane before. So wish me luck. Okay, I'm going to have to start banning particular people. I'm starting to understand why some of the more well-known YouTube people have to have moderators on the live stream chat working for them. It's absolutely insane, isn't it? Yeah, I can see what Into the Blue were saying now. This is going to weave on the runway quite badly. It's doing it now. Until we get up to speed, it would appear the nose wheel steering is quite overly sensitive. So what I'm going to do before we get going is go into the control options and make a new profile for the nose wheel steering. So I use a twist stick to do nose wheel steering. So what we're going to do is go to preset manager, duplicate this one and call it the Fokker F28 Fellowship stick profile. And we're going to go into sensitivities. Yeah, you can see at the moment I've already got it flattened out quite a lot with some, but we're going to go some more basically. It's a shame we're having to flatten it out so much. So 70 I guess. So hope I don't need the rudder. Done. Apply, go back, resume. Okay, here goes nothing then. Yeah, they're going to need to fix that with the nose wheel. I'm just watching that indicated airspeed. It gets more stable the faster it gets. Leaps into the air. Start trimming the nose wheel out. It's very, very fast. So we're going to start that first turn. And we're going to move the heading bug as well. So shall we go and turn on the autopilot and see what happens? So we're in roll hold mode at the moment, so we go heading hold. So it should turn back right, and it's doing so, which is great. We're in pitch hold mode, so it's going to continue at the pitch it was in. I wonder if it will do that until it gets to the target altitude automatically. Though no, it won't, will it? Because it hasn't got a target. Oh, it has, sorry, it's on the pre-selector. So I wonder if the pre-selector, if it will stop just when it gets to 18,000 basically. So we'll let it carry on climbing out. We'll push the throttles on a bit more, out to 90%. Let's have a look at it from outside. Big old black plumes behind us. So we've got distance measuring equipment over here, which is counting down to the VOR. We're still coming in at a slight angle to it. So we should be able to corroborate that with, yeah, there we go with the map. So following Detling, we're going to go for 117.90 for the Mayfield VOR. So just to try this out, I'm going to lower our target altitude just to 12,000 feet, just for the purposes of today's testing, to see if this comes out of pitch hold and goes up automatically over to it'd be interesting actually, can we engage beam mode and will it interesting. So height will do altitude hold obviously. It'll be interesting to see if this intercepts, and here comes the CDI. I'm going to be interested to see, so heading mode switched off, look, it's beam mode has captured and the aeroplane's turning left. So that worked as you would expect it to work. You just need to put it on an intercept course and then the aeroplane takes over, which is fantastic. So it's much like the 146 in that regard. So I imagine to change climb rate I would remove pitch, use trim and then re-engage pitch. It's interesting there's an altitude hold switch as well though. So that's within 1,000 feet now of our target, so we heard the sound there. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, whether it goes straight through or not. So we've got one, we're on top of the VOR now. So we need to, it's gone back to roll hold because it's lost its signal, which is good. So 117.90 now. Okay, so we've got the signal, so we can turn the course to the course we want to be going, and we want to be on the 226 degree course, which would have been about there. So let's see, if we just go beam, I doubt if it'll do it. Oh, it will! So we don't have to be on an intercept course even. It's got the signal, it knows it's off to one side, so it's just going to turn itself onto an intercept course. That's really good. And we have leveled out, look, it's gone to height mode automatically as soon as it got to 12,000. So we are above 10,000, or we're above the transition altitude actually, so we should change this now to 2992. So we're obviously not quite at 12,000 feet. Be interesting to see if it tracks back on its own. Doesn't look like it's going to. So it's done the intercept all on its own. This is remarkably easy to fly then. So you can just use a combination of pitch mode, height mode, beam, and it's very, very good. So you can see we're coming back towards, this is why I set this route up basically, to fly around London. And we got some nice bits and pieces where we're going to fly for a distance on the DME and then go to the next one. So we'll put in the next VOR, which is the Midhurst VOR 11400. It's interesting actually, so how do we select? I guess this can come back down to 0, can't it? We're not using it for the mode we're in. How do we select which? Okay, there's the selector for nav1 or nav2. Okay, that makes sense. So Midhurst was 114.00, so we'll go and tune in Midhurst. And the DME over there has lit up straight away, so we have got Midhurst already. We're going to set the course up for Midhurst to 294 degrees. So then when we get there, the HSI over here will make some sense. It's not showing the signal yet. DME's working, but it doesn't have... In fact, that course hasn't worked. What's going on? Oh, maybe it doesn't until... Okay, it doesn't have split mode. It's showing nav1 on both. So although we've pre-configured, that makes sense, okay. So you can't do both. So we will leave the Mayfield VOR on a course of 258. So we'll just change our course as we go over the top to 258. So far this is all very, very good. So we've got this VOR lock, it's just the autopilot mode. So we've got no warnings going on. We're looking pretty good, aren't we? Why do we have an emergency light on? Oh, because we didn't put the arms on. I must have done that by accident earlier. The rest of it was surprisingly straightforward. So it does remind me an awful lot of the 146 in the way that it works. So hang on a second, this is showing the DME. For nav2, not for nav1. Is that a bug, or is it something that we've missed? So this is the mode for the flight director, not for guidance. This is for guidance. Well, that's interesting. So we want it to be 258 degrees. So then we use heading mode for the moment to get ourselves to 25 or 260 even. Or we could go for beam again, and it should do it for us. So obviously we've swept out wide. But that's interesting. So the DMEs, they're both showing nav2. So it is, no doubt this is something I have done. I wonder if they both can't be in DME at the same time. So if we put that one on standby for the moment. Oh, maybe it doesn't have DME on. That's interesting, isn't it? So 11400. That's on DME mode. We'll turn this one to, yeah, this is on standby. And then if we go to beam mode, the aeroplane should turn right. Or not. Let's put on heading mode. So we wanted to be on a course of 294, didn't we? Which is good. So that's going to come in and join this leg. If you're wondering why I'm doing this twisty, turny course, if we turn the sectors on, it will become obvious. If I can remember where the sector button is, here it is. We're avoiding Gatwick airspace, basically. Should we take this up to 18,000 and see how it works? So if we select 18,000 on this, and then turn the height, or go to pitch mode, sorry. Can I not disable pitch mode? So I just used the pitch trim by the look of it then. Where's the vertical speed? Here it is. So if I go height mode, interesting. So what I'll have to do is turn it off completely to set the pitch. I presume I can use indicated airspeed mode. We're going far too fast, that's why you're hearing the clunking noises. So I'm going to pull it back on the throttles a little bit. Doesn't like going that fast, does it? Okay, so this is still a bit... Alright, someone's just come past us. This is still a bit of a mystery as to... Obviously need to read the book on this for pitch mode. I'm guessing so the pitch command doesn't actually do anything. Let's disengage the autopilot for a moment. Get the aeroplane going up at the pitch we want. Re-engage. And it will go to pitch hold. Or will it? No, it's fallen back to 0. In fact, it's going back to the height it was at. So you obviously need to read about that then, because that's making no sense. We'll just fly along at the height we're at for the moment. So we want to go 241 degrees on the heading. So go to heading mode and we've got 241. So to be honest, we need to. Oh, sim is frozen. So that's a bit of a mystery as to how the pitch mode works, or what influences it. It doesn't work the same as the 146 at all. So I'll need to read the book. Got a master caution that because of the overspeed earlier. So if we wanted to get this ready in advance, we could go for 11435 and go for 344 on the course. So let's go and get that ready now. So we're in heading mode at the moment, so we don't need to worry. 11435. And then start the aircraft turning towards the direction we want to be going. So I imagine we're going to overshoot slightly, but maybe not by too much. We've got 35 miles to go until we get to the Compton VOR. So while that's happening... Oh, someone wants to see the Garmin. Should we have a look at it? So we go into the aircraft tab, click on the cog, if it works the same as the others, and we can do GPS navigation, and we get a Garmin GNS. It's just booted up down here, appeared out of nowhere. Give it a moment to warm up. So we could put in some basics, couldn't we? EGMC, so flight plan. We took off from EGMC. Enter. Then we went, we've just been... it's going to be difficult to do this though on the Garmin. We went through the Midhurst VOR. Now we're heading towards Compton, which is CPT. Then we're going to Bovingdon, BNN. Enter, enter. Then Lambourne, LAM. I'd be surprised if you can actually use... Oh, I've done the wrong thing now. Then we're going to go out to the Clacton, CLN. VOR. I'd be surprised if you can actually use this to guide the aeroplane. Because there's no... Well, as far as I was aware, there's no easy way of doing that. Oh, we didn't put in the destination, did we? EGMC again. So at least we should, if we zoom out, there's the route. There's Compton we're just coming towards. Obviously we've got the corner missing because we didn't have a way of putting a custom waypoint in easily. But yeah, there's going to be no mode for this to go after the GPS instead of the VOR. So it's really just a visual reference, I guess. So 11435, and notice the DME still isn't working, so is that something I've switched off over here? This was in DME mode. Put that one in DME mode as well. So that's measuring nav2 all the time, not nav1. Interesting. Obviously we can use heading mode to get this back on track. So it was 344 degrees, wasn't it? This should have been on the course. Hello, what's going on? Why? Why is the course not correct? It's showing the nav2. Now it's working. Interesting. So I think maybe I'd clicked on nav2. It's not very obvious which of these is depressed. There's only a slight depression. That could have been what was going on then. Turn altitude hold on. Can we use pitch mode then? Is that the trick? So if I try and trim the aeroplane, it levels itself back out. If I turn altitude hold off, there's obviously a trick to this. There's a pitch control somewhere. It's not the pitch command as far as I can see, because that just moves the flight director. Again, just need to read the book, that's all. Oh, there it is. Being an idiot, sorry. Oh no, that would be the same as my controller, wouldn't it? So if we leave it in pitch mode, if I click this a few times, this is the same as me. Oh no, that's the trim wheel, it's not the pitch. Okay, that's the pitch control for the autopilot. There we go. So we've now got 1 click per 100 feet. So if we wanted to go 1,000 feet a minute, or maybe you just have to monitor it. So just under 1,000 feet a minute now we're climbing, keeping on the airspeed. Okay, that makes sense then. So that's similar to the way the King Air works, isn't it? All good information. So Hedison says RTFM. Yeah, this is the only bit I hadn't researched, was how the autopilot worked, because I couldn't. Well, other than just reading the book this afternoon, but I didn't have time because of work. Last night I wrote up the rest of the startup procedure, but I didn't get a chance to read about the autopilot, so this is very much testing it and learning as we go. But everything else worked absolutely by the numbers, starting the airplane up. It was really good. Okay, so let's go back towards Bovingdon then. So if we turn the heading bug to about 90 degrees now. So while we're busy talking, we've gone off course slightly. But that's good. It's all good because it gives us time to play around with navigation. And we want the Bovingdon VOR, which is 11375. And if we spin the course round, we can find out the exact angle to get to Bovingdon. Which is pretty much what we're asking it of. So if we turn a little bit further than we need to, we should be able to just go to beam mode and it will take over and do it for us. And it's counting down nicely. Okay, so that's working now with the Nav1 and Nav2. That threw me initially because it didn't make a change, which was odd. Though having said that, let's see if this will intercept from this angle then. So if we went for 60 degrees on the approach into Bovingdon, so let's go for 60. So the airplane should bank right, and it's doing so, which is great. I wonder what sort of bank intercept angle it will do. So it's coming in, so we should see it rejoin the track. Wow, it's going for an incredibly steep. What's happening? I think it's lost its mind. So we'll go heading mode and we'll help it. So it's not quite as clever as we might wish it to be. So you can't perform wonders, basically. And this is why we test these things. So we don't find out in the middle of a controlled flight. So Hudson says, I'm impressed seeing your cold flying. Yeah, this is first flight. This is learning as we go. So we got off the runway easily enough. Autopilot came on nicely. It held pitch on the climb out. I didn't understand what was happening with the once we got to our initial altitude, I didn't twig that the pitch control was down here for the climb rate. But now I know that, it's absolutely fine. We can fly this plane anywhere now. And it's also good to know that, you know, you can't perform wonders with the beam mode. You really do need to leave it on heading mode until you're in the neighbourhood, and then switch over once you're nearly there. So we're 35 miles out from Bovingdon. So if we go to beam mode now, so what does this gauge do then? Need to do some reading. Okay, airplane's pulling onto the beam. So when we leave Bovingdon, we will be on a 101 degree course over to Lambourne. We're getting round towards the end of our flight, so we have levelled out to 18,000 feet nicely. Oh no, we're not. We're still at 13. Why is it not climbing? Okay, it's just not climbing very hard. Should we give that a bit more climb rate then? Let's tell it to go at a couple of thousand feet a minute. So it won't. Of course, it's pitch hold, isn't it? Not vertical speed. It's interesting that when the light is on the gauges, you can't see what's lit up at all, which could be interesting sometimes. So yeah, as we are losing speed, let's go give it some more power. So what happens with the gauges when we went full throttle? So we've got 100%. We didn't have to uncage that, did we, as part of the startup? It's an interesting one. So I think there's some elements of this are going to be knowing the book of like things like maximum continuous thrust and things like that. You're just going to have to know the numbers. Okay, so what's going on here? Let's come back to heading mode. We wanted to be leaving here at 100 degrees, didn't we? So if we go 110 and put this on heading mode just to make sure. So it's done roll hold, which was odd because it rolled at an angle. You'd imagine it would have stayed level on the way through. So I set our course to 100. And we'll go beam mode again and let it correct onto the course. So we'll fly away from the VOR at 100 degrees. So where is the sim froze again then, didn't it? Where is the... oh, there's the from marker. Okay. So 115.60 we will retune to. And we'll go to heading mode before we do that, hey? 11560. So we're now counting down the numbers to the next VOR, or hopefully we are. Does it not have... oh, maybe it's out of range of the DME. Does this have DME? This is not using Nav1 again. And it is a VOR DME, so why is it not doing it? That's strange. So obviously you can see down here we're exactly on the route. But should we start descending now? So if we went and came down to 10,000 feet, so we go to pitch mode and then push this forwards. He says, famous last words, we're going too fast again. It won't pitch down when we're overspeeding. Let's try this then. Let's go indicated airspeed mode. So where do we set our target indicated airspeed? Checking the spoilers out to see if we can slow ourselves down. It's not wanting to slow down, is it? Why are we hearing a buzzing noise, and why are there no alarm buttons to go with that? It's not a stall. We have a noise and we can't figure out where the noise is coming from. Is it just because of the descent rate, do you think? It doesn't like it. It doesn't like coming down at more than 1,500 feet or something. Interesting. Okay, so what I'm going to do... take over manual control. I think we might have hit a bug. Because there are no alerts going off, but we're getting a klaxon buzzer. I disabled the autopilot. annoying sound in the world. We didn't do that, did we, earlier? Something missing from the checklist. Has something gone off that should have been on? Nothing untoward overhead. There's no warnings lit up anywhere. How very strange. Oh, you know what it was? Yeah, it was the horn silencer button. The reason is there's a bug in some motherboards, and I have this happen with my computer, with Flight Simulator. It sometimes recycles the USB ports, and when it does it, it would have made the undercarriage lever go down for like a tenth of a second. So we're going to go for ILS anyway and go and see if we can get a descent into Southend again. So 11135, 233 degrees. So 233 degrees for the first, 233. So we're going to do this all manually. And 11135. So we're still descending, we're at 10,000 feet at the moment. So if we fly out over the channel and then turn back to 233. So we've got our visual reference here, so we can just fly the reciprocal. Move our heading bug to go the same direction we're going to be going. I think it'd be fun to fly it by hand for a little bit anyway. So we're still descending 1,000 feet a minute, doing 250 knots, which is good. Now we're below 10,000 feet, so I'm not going to break any laws. Leveled out, so let's come back off the throttle a little bit. I think it's quite windy. There's probably some pretty big waves down there. This is still showing turn around, go and land this thing. Yeah, so great spot, whoever that was, about the gear klaxon. The reason for it, as I said, is there's a glitch I quite often see in the simulator on this hardware, where it recycles the USB ports and it causes the controls to glitch, and that obviously set off the klaxon for the, or the horn, sorry, for the undercarriage. Okay, so we don't appear to have distance measuring equipment working, which is frustrating in the extreme. So we're going to slowly descend down to 3,000 feet, hopefully in time for the entrance into the feathers, which would be good. Let's see if we can, while we're doing that, if we send nav2 to standby, put this one back on DME again, is it going to pick it up? Just wondering why this is not picking up. Or maybe it wouldn't because it's ILS, so maybe it's not as, obviously it's not as high range. It might only pick it up at kind of 10 miles out. So we're still descending down towards 3,000 feet. We need to lose some speed, so probably slightly. Presumably this has to go to glide slope. Otherwise we maybe won't see a glide slope. I wonder if that's what this is. So off to the left. Still descending. We do have the distance here though. So what was that showing? So you can see the runway. Let's slow down a bit. Get ourselves down to 200 knots at least. And we can get the gear down. So is this the glide slope here? Just going to see the undercarriage come out, see what it looks like. Yeah, so that's the glide slope on this side. So we go low. And if we pull the nose up, we'll go high. So I'm just watching this to see what it does. So we'll get some flaps out. Flaps are travelling. It's interesting how much lift that gave it with the flaps. And without thrust, how much speed you lose very quickly. So if we stick to about 130 knots on approach, just to maintain relatively safe airspeed. I'm not sure what the stall speed is actually. A little bit high, so we have got room to lose some altitude. Let's get back down onto the glide slope. Bit low now. More power. It's very easy to drift low and to get slow. It's quite draggy. See we're low, the PAPI lights are saying we're low, so we'll just increase thrust a little bit, back on track. A bit slow then, I'm guessing that's what the noise was. Or the inner markers maybe.
50, 40, 30, 20, 10.
Bit heavy but, and a bounce. Not too bad for a first go though, hey. So the landing lights can come off if I can find them in time. Oh, cool aeroplane. So obviously there's an awful lot to learn with this, but we've got the basics down. The thing that was throwing me was the distance measuring equipment not showing in these dials what was going on, but I hadn't realised that it was also showing it on the HSI as well. It's just they didn't match up, so I need to go read the book on that to see exactly what's being shown where. So I need to go and tidy up my checklist. Notice that when you get really slow it starts to drift on the nose wheel steering again. Of course this might be realistic, it might be the real plane always did that. So I'm going to taxi back into the south end, find a parking spot. So we'll see it. Anyone that's into military aviation will be taxiing past a Vulcan in a moment. So you get a close-up look at one of the remaining Vulcans. There it is. It's a shame it's parked in a corner of the airfield, isn't it? I think this is the Pilot Plus version of Southend. It's very, very good. Obviously it's a bit of a frame rate killer because they always are. So I'm just reading the live stream chat. I got distracted then. It's not huge on. It's a quirk of the aircraft when the throttles are retarded in certain situations. Is that to do with the nose wheel steering? Yeah, or the DME, or I'm not sure. But yeah, I need to go and read the book basically now. So that was a first play. And it was a bit seat of the pants at times and kind of finding our way around how things interoperate. But we got the basics down pretty quickly, didn't we? The pitch mode obviously is controlled by this. And then you've got height mode, which is the same as altitude hold, or vaguely similar. Beam is the VOR lock. Heading mode's obvious. Roll hold is obvious. Glide slope, we didn't play with that, did we? So that would be interesting to have a play with at a future date, as we get used to the procedures required. I don't like having a GPS in the cockpit. It's almost redundant in this aeroplane, to be honest. You would normally do this with a flight plan, wouldn't you? And you'd know your VORs and headings and distances and timings, which is what this aeroplane would have done in the real world. So I doubt I'll be using the GPS much. It's much more fun, I think, to form the picture in your head of where you are and where the VORs are and take your measurements and do it that way. Yeah, and obviously there was the gear horn as well, which was a really good lesson. So if you do get a control glitch or the sim freezes for whatever reason, when it comes out of it, quite commonly the USB ports get recycled, and that caused the undercarriage lever to flick. So it would literally have done... Is it going to do it? I can't actually flick it. Look, now we're on the ground. But if we were to... Yeah, we can't move it. That's interesting. So when there's weight on wheels, it won't let you move it. Interesting. I presume to shut the engines down, we're literally just going to pull the mixture back. What warnings will that kick off? I would have expected more than that. I would have expected horns maybe, because we haven't got the APU on. So it's literally just gone dead. But that's where all the fun is going to be with learning the airplane, isn't it? Is figuring out when things go wrong, how you get back out of them. So like, you know, engine failures and stuff like that. And because they've modelled it so well, you can actually work your way around looking at the indications and figuring out what's going on. It's very cool though, isn't it? So if we were just to turn the electric power off now, it's interesting that some switches you have to drag, others you can just click on. So you've got transformer rectifier units down here. I think they were on already. Battery off. Very good. So obviously I've not gone through and done the shutdown sequence. There's lots of switches now in the wrong positions. I don't know if it remembers where switches are. I know some of the planes, like the things like the 310, are really good at that, where if you leave the airplane in a mess, you've got a mess to clean up next time you get in it. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. That was our first test of the Fokker F28 Fellowship in Microsoft Flight Simulator. So if you just discovered my channel, please do click the like and follow, subscribe, whatever it is you do. My kids always tell me I should do this spiel at the beginning and end of the videos, but I don't like marketing. So I'll let you do what you want to do. Okay, I'm going to leave it there. I'll see you again soon.